Namaste. Today's topic of discussion, as was put up in our story, is Yogi Fadnavis, uh, Jugalbandi 3.0 and question mark. So today's topic of discussion basically has some connotations about future. We are going to analyze the past, observe the past, analyze what is happening at present, and then try to extrapolate what may happen in future. And that is what my effort has been. And therefore, the title is Yogi and Fadnavis, whether they are Jugalbandi 3.0. Now, first of all, this live should have happened on the page of Armchair Analyst, but because internet connection at Apurva's place is a bit weak, and therefore I decided that we have to conduct it here. So today's session is really the episode 1 of this entire discussion, whether this is Jugalbandi 3.0, and I will be putting forward my points. And then once I put forward my points, all the viewers, I sincerely request that please put up some questions so that I can take up those questions and answer them, try to address them. That is one. And then tomorrow, whatever I try to formalize, whatever concept I try to put forward, Apurva will try to address it in a way. Either he will agree with me or he may disagree with me. But principally, the other side of the coin, whatever I am putting forward, he will try to argue from his point of view. So today is the first session, as we can say, episode 1 of this thing, and then part 1 in the alternative, you can call it. So first, starting with our topic, and it is right out there in the title, Yogi and Fadnavis, Jugalbandi 3.0 question mark. Now, at first, I will go straight to the word Jugalbandi. And what do I mean by the word Jugalbandi? Now, the simple thing is, I just came across a book, a fantastic book, recently written. I think it was published somewhere in 2020, called as by the name of Jugalbandi. It was written by none other than Vinay Sitapati. Now, this is the same person who has written a fantastic biography on Narasimha Rao. So, in this book, Jugalbandi, it is actually biography. In a way, it is biography of what was the relationship or what was the companionship between camaraderie, as it is called, between Advani and Vajpayee. That is the first part. However, at the same time, I would like to call it, or I would like to see it as biography of Hindu nationalism. Because what happens is, Advani and Vajpayee, if we see closely, they have been since inception of Hindu nationalism or its political journey, they have been a very essential, crucial part of it. So, on one hand, it is biography of Advani and Vajpayee and how their companionship panned out, but at the same time, it is also story of, or what we can say as biography of Hindu nationalism. So that was the first Jugalbandi which India has seen. That is the first Jugalbandi. Second Jugalbandi, as we see in today's time, is of course Narendra Modi and Amit Shah. And lastly, we come to our thesis, really hypothesis, whether Yogi and Fadnavis can become or replace that Jugalbandi in days forward, in years forward, really, because as all of us can see, Narendra Modi and Amit Shah will remain in the political ambience or political atmosphere for quite some time now. So at least I assume that at least for another 5 years, both of them will not have any plan of succession. After that, they may have some. So that is the first premise. Now, the second premise is, what do I mean when I say Jugalbandi? So the basic premise of that book which I mentioned, Vinay Sitapati, is that Hindu nationalism always requires two faces. One is a face of an orator, or who goes to the public, who is in a way a person with a mass appeal, and in the alternative, it is what we can say as organizer, because as they say, one has to be face of the party and the other has to be the limbs of the parties. They have to organize the cadre, the other has to go to the public at large and try to address them. Now, this is the first thing. Now, as far as Advani and Vajpayee was concerned, if we see and observe their entire relationship, we would see that Vajpayee, for most of its relationship, most of its companionship, they were really Vajpayee was really the orator, whereas Advani remained the organizer. There was a brief period of Ayodhya movement when Advani actually got the center stage, or Advani really became the face of the party, but that was for a very brief period. Eventually, again in 1996 and what days followed after that, both of them became really the so again they went into the same roles, that Vajpayee be the orator and Advani be the organizer. Now that is the first thing. Now the second Jugalbandi which we have seen is Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, and it is exactly the same in a way, because Narendra Modi is the person who has a mass appeal. He goes to the people. He carries out huge rallies. He actually garners support from people, and because he is a mass leader, he has a appeal to the masses. That is the first thing. At the same time, Amit Shah has played out the role of being an organizer. Most of the time now we can see Amit Shah panning out, and he is really the one of the second most influential minister in Modi's cabinet. But before that, if we closely see, and in fact for the entire 5-year Modi 1.0, if we can call it, the first tenure of Modi, Amit Shah was really the party man. So he was really holding the party, he was controlling the party. Not only he was president, but he was calling all the political shots in the game. That was the thing. Now recently he has finally has been inducted in the cabinet, and he has become home minister. But at the same time, as all of us know, home ministry is by far the most political any cabinet ministry can get, because it has got a lot of decision making powers which actually have a lot of political implications. So therefore, what remains true about these two gentlemen is Modi remains the orator and the leader, whereas Amit Shah remains the organizer, or the person who micromanages things. So this is really the duo which pans out, and therefore we have to put it into today's perspective and see who in BJP can actually fit into these two roles. The first is being of an orator, second is of an organizer. Now what is the first role? And we have to come to that role is as an orator and as an orator. So as far as oration is concerned, we have seen that since quite some time, Yogi Adityanath has been continuously roped in throughout India whenever BJP has been having a tough election to crack, or an election in which his mass appeal can actually create a fervor on the ground, or you want to charge the cadres with it. That is the time when his oration, or I do not know how many of you would actually love to listen to him, but as all of us know, we come from a very urban background, and our sense of liking is different, whereas it is continuously seen that the masses in rural areas, in areas of North India, and even in areas in which most of the North Indian migrated population is found, all of them carry a substantial mass appeal, or they are kind of fascinated by the speeches of Adityanath. So he definitely, before even he became chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, he definitely had mass appeal. And second thing which he has on his side is his age. He is remarkably young for a politician, and therefore that is one thing. Now as far as the part of organizer is concerned, we can see that Devendra Fadnavis, not only he is equally known for his oration, he has been having some good speeches, rallies. He has become a mass leader in his own right in Maharashtra, but at the same time what his skill lie is really in micromanaging things, because he has been, if not anything else, he has been a absolutely top class administrator. So that is one thing, and not only he has managed his party well, that he has virtually ended all kind of competition in a progressive state like Maharashtra, wherein his caste becomes a factor against him. So even in that kind of picture, he has played out the politics really well. So as far as managing the party and galvanizing the party behind a particular leader or himself is concerned, he has done a phenomenal job as far as organizing or uniting the party is concerned. Now, at the same time, we must realize what has changed in terms of Hindu nationalism to this extreme. We must see and we must realize that at this moment, earlier when in times of Vajpayee and Advani, and even in some political life, a crucial political life of Advani, this one Vajpayee and Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, you can see that they were out of power. So this is a crucial distinction, because what happens in this particular case is, as far as the this particular generation, that is 3.0 Jugalbandi is concerned, BJP is already in power. BJP has already replaced Congress as one of the most important alternative. So at this moment, BJP has really become the party, and then all other parties, keep on opposing it or supporting it. So it is one pan-national party. It has already become, and it dominates the national political scenario. So that remains the truth, and that is absolutely there. So considering that, what we must always remember is, now there is an important thing which all of us can see clearly, that there is a moderate India, and then there is a Hindutva oriented populace. So what we can see is, there are two types of people who would go out and vote for BJP. One are the ones who call themselves or find themselves as moderate Indians, but on the plank of good governance, on the plank of development, on the plank any other things, for example, good foreign policy initiatives, policy management, and all of that. In these areas, these moderate Indians consider that if a party is delivering, then we would go out and vote for that party. Whereas as far as BJP is concerned, as a political party, every political party has a what they call is their core voter. So no matter what, these core voters always go out and vote for BJP. And now these core voters, as we can see, is what is referred to as the Hindutva voters. So they vote for BJP on the grounds of ideology itself, or in the alternative we can see absolute loyalty to the party. And of course, in case of BJP, it is on the basis of the analysis of Hindutva, or we can say that is the sole plank on which these people go out and vote. So for a BJP of future, in order to retain the political dominance which it has in India, both these things, both these sections of society must be addressed. They have to, because what happens is, not only the Hindutva vote bank has to continuously enlarge itself, at the same time the moderates having some sympathy towards BJP have to be, as they are often called, the fence sitters. Those voters have to be attracted to BJP for some reason or the other, either on the account of development or on good policies, etc., or governance, etc. So these are really the two roles. If I can see BJP of future or Bharat of future, I can really see that these two leaders, namely Fadnavis and Yogi, can fit into that things. Because as I have already seen, or as I have already explained, that in case of Advani and Vajpayee, and in case of Amit Shah and Narendra Modi, one was a orator, another was organizer. So basically there was a hierarchy, that Vajpayee was the mass leader and Advani was the organizer, or he did not have mass appeal. In case of Narendra Modi has mass appeal. Amit Shah is the organizer, did not, until quite recently, did not have mass appeal. In the case of Fadnavis and Yogi, this particular thing changes. It undergoes a very important change. BJP has been fortunate that both these leaders are mass leaders in their own rights and in their own states. Now why I say in their particular states? Because if we see rise of BJP, principally it has been a party which has engendered votes in northern part of India and western part of India. So when I say western part of India, it includes Maharashtra and Gujarat, whereas when I say northern part of India, it consists of all Hindi heartland. So these two leaders precisely come from these two states. One comes from the Hindi heartbelt and the other comes from the western Maharashtra, western India, which is most likely and most importantly is seen through the lenses of progressive economy. So these are the things, and fortunately BJP has these two leaders who have their own mass appeal and they have their own following among youth because of whatever their governance record has been. Now many of us in this particular crisis, we are continuously seeing that in Uttar Pradesh there is a upheaval going on, there is a lot of mismanagement. But at the same time, until quite recently, many of the people who actually have visited Uttar Pradesh, they could witness that the scale at which development of roads is happening in the Uttar Pradesh is at a massive scale. At the same time, the public transport services was quite well improved in that state. At the same time, in terms of law and order, there was at least some sense of improvement in this. Now, as far as healthcare is concerned, definitely COVID is a challenge which every political party and every political leader has to face. But at the same time, we must not remember that this is a once in a century momentum. So this need not make or break an entire leader. There is a still chance that if in 2022 Yogi actually comes back with a victory and again retains the kind of majority, he may not retain 3/4, or at this moment it is a huge mandate, almost I think more than exceeding 2/3, which BJP has in Uttar Pradesh. But if BJP manages to retain it, then Yogi definitely would have proved his mettle as of now. And as far as Devendra Fadnavis is concerned, in 2019 unequivocally he was voted back into power. His alliance was voted back into power. Of course, for whatever reasons they were, he has been kept out of power by the alliances, which we can see at the moment, and we also see how it is playing out. So another point, and which is very important, that why only Fadnavis and Yogi become the most important, or why they are the only ones which I have mentioned as the ones who are capable of being the part of Jugalbandi. There is a very simple reason, and this is something which I picked up from another famous reporter, really, that is Mr. Thatte. I think his surname is I have forgotten his name, but he particularly, Gagan Bedi Thatte, he is popularly called as or referred to. So he has put forward this entire important analysis actually, that Fadnavis has become so dear to the central leadership of BJP, that is currently Modi and Shah, that only because they wanted Fadnavis to be, yeah, thank you Aditya Lele, Anil Thatte, thanks a lot. So he has put forward this thing that the central leadership, Modi and Shah, were ready to give up one of the most important industrial state in India, one which is very progressive and which is economically very stronger. They were ready to give up power in Maharashtra only because they could see only Devendra Fadnavis as Chief Minister of Maharashtra if there is a BJP-led government. So the first attempt which they basically panned out was when they tried to garner support from NCP, but at the same time there have been detailed discussion that Sharad Pawar wanted Devendra Fadnavis to be removed from state leadership and maybe brought to central leadership, and he would have actually gone ahead and formed a government with BJP had there been any chief ministerial candidate from BJP than Fadnavis. So what this particular reality states is that even at the cost of losing power in Maharashtra, BJP central leadership, namely Modi and Shah, were ready to give up everything only because they wanted to see Fadnavis as the chief minister. This underlines their confidence in his leadership. Now this is the political scenario which we have seen. Now, why I also feel that Fadnavis is a person who has a greater appeal than Yogi. Now Yogi certainly has a mass appeal, but at the same time, not only so, being a Maharashtrian, of course there is a bias that I would naturally want or would like to, in a way, see a Maharashtrian become Prime Minister at least once in India. But at the same time, there is one more thing. So there is one important thing, that if we see Fadnavis's policy, I have actually not seen any other chief minister who had come up with a vision for Maharashtra for another 10 to 15 years. So what his initial idea was that Maharashtra, in the kind of developmental stage that it is in, it can actually not aspire to limit itself to being only an industrial state. It has to be a state which provides services sector, because over the period of time, while we have retained the important position of being a financial center, what we have kept on losing is all these IT services and all these facilities to, let's say, Bangalore or Hyderabad for various reasons. And because of that, what has happened is we certainly have industrialized, but the important IT sector, which constitutes a huge chunk of economy in these states, have to be brought back in Maharashtra. And at the same time, what he proposed was Maharashtra has to become a service oriented state. So a state which pans out services, be it financial services, IT services, or any other sorts of services, educational services, which are also gaining quite an importance in this pandemic. So all these things, he had mapped out a particular vision for a state like Maharashtra, which is very important. And that is something, at the same time, his track record has been absolutely clean slate. He has not been actually criticized for any of his governance failure. So that the only thing which opposition could find to poke out or target him was his caste, and apparently also his weight and how he looks, etc. So he was body shamed. That actually underlines the important thing that his track record has been phenomenal in Maharashtra. What it basically gives out advantage to BJP is that they have a governance guy. So as there was a model of Gujarat model that was very popular, and then eventually that basically granted Narendra Modi an opportunity to become a national leader. At the same time, the kind of leadership, and not only leadership but also the way cunningly Fadnavis has played out his politics, that makes him a leader which not only has governance under his control, but he also has the government under his control, the political part of it and the governance part of it. So considering that factor really makes him one of the important person in today's world, in today's Indian polity, and who has a capacity to be elevated and become a national leader. Now another reason, as they see, that Fadnavis is certainly seen as closer to Nagpur, not only because he is from Nagpur, but at the same time the way he operates itself is actually something which Hindu nationalism or the entire Sangha Parivar considers as ideal. So if we see and look at his speeches, in his explicit speeches, he is absolutely and unapologetically aggressive about his Hinduness or about his Hindutva ideology. But at the same time, he sees to it that his words are crafted so sharply that they don't cross any lines and cannot be directly called as or named as or called as communalism or bigotry. So that is very important, that whenever you are aggressively putting forward your ideology, what you must remember is you have the constitutional boundary which you have to follow. And Fadnavis, being a lawyer, he absolutely knows how to mold his word, how to fine tune whatever his tone or content is. That is something which we must give to Fadnavis, that makes him the top contender for what would become the succession of Narendra Modi. Now coming back to Yogi Adityanath. Now important thing is, we in urban cities see this person as a very regressive person. But at the same time, we must realize that if we actually date back and reverse the clock and go into the time when it was around 2005, the entire media campaign against Narendra Modi was so vitriolic, the entire urban population could not simply have taken or accepted Narendra Modi as the leadership. That is the fact. No one in their right mind, even BJP sympathizers, supporters, would not have gone openly, urban population or supporters, would not have gone on and embraced Narendra Modi. And that is precisely what happens. With the track record of governance which was put forward and proved by Narendra Modi, that really propelled him to the national leadership. And that precisely is what is happening with Yogi Adityanath. He has been continuously targeted, but at the same time we must remember that even a bad publicity is a publicity. Again and again he is getting mentioned in all these international magazines and all of that, for whether good reasons or bad reasons. He is getting that press, and the moment his name continues to pop up in every national debate, and he is actually used as a mascot to again and again target a particular ideology which is in power, he will continue to gain and continue to ascend the entire thing. Now the last factor which plays out in favor of Yogi Adityanath is that, because what the secular India, or what we would say is a left liberal, the entire system or ecosystem sees his saffron robes as something which which would eventually distance himself from being prime minister, the same saffron robes also grant him one thing which is very crucial to the entire project of Hindu nationalism, and that is ensuring that caste does not divide what religion unites. By that, what I simply mean is that again and again, so if we see and go to Uttar Pradesh, the simple thing is BJP wants to unite Hindus in the name of religion, whereas all the opposition parties, be it Samajwadi, be it Congress, or be it Bahujan Samajwadi Party, all of them want to divide the society into caste and garner votes. This is precisely what is happening in most part of the Hindi heartland. So once a person with a saffron robes comes into picture, what happens is he has the kind of potential to dissolve the caste lines, go beyond it, and only as a Hindu try to put forward the point of view. This is very, very important in rural North India, because these are really the areas in which caste lines or caste divisions matter the most. Whereas when it comes to urban India, BJP will always have a very pro leader, what we can say, pro governance leader, and a leader which has a fantastic track record of governance. He is absolutely good with his politics. At the same time, he is decent. He has a knack to deal with the industrialist. He is quite popular with the youth, which looks up to him for whatever he has achieved in terms of infrastructure building and all of that. So for urban India, BJP's face can be Fadnavis, but for rural India and mainly the part of India which matter the most for BJP, and that is North India, the Hindi heartland, that particular thing can be galvanized. The votes from that particular part can only be galvanized using an important symbolism in terms of and with the face of Yogi Adityanath. However, as I come towards the conclusion of this entire discussion, is that whenever it comes to, so as I have tried to convince that as far as urban India is concerned, it is Fadnavis who leads, whereas as far as rural Hindutva India is concerned, as those core voters of BJP are concerned, Yogi Adityanath is what inspires. So in my analysis, future BJP after Narendra Modi and Amit Shah would definitely want to project these two leaders, young leaders, as their future of the party, because both of them have the capacity and capability to become the Jugalbandi. However, the question as to who will become the Prime Minister solely rests with one person, who is our current Prime Minister, and that is Narendra Modi. Thanks a lot thanks to all of you for joining today's live. If any of you have any question pertaining to this, please leave it in the comment box. If you ask immediately, I definitely can try to answer some of them. And this is part 1 of today's series for Yogi and Fadnavis Jugalbandi 3.0 question mark. We will be coming up again tomorrow from Armchair Analyst, and we will be discussing this entire thing with Apurva Sahasrabudhe, and definitely I have particularly asked him that he has to point out all the shortcomings or all the flaws in this entire idea which I have put forward, or hypothesis I have put forward, because as all of us know, with the BJP coming into power, BJP has also given rise to other leaders at the same time in their respective states. So even those leaders cannot be ignored. For even example, we must remember that Amit Shah is not as old as we might think. That is first thing. Yes. Sudhanva has asked that caste of Yogi is a factor which may play out to his advantage, whereas may act as disability for Fadnavis. I totally agree. In fact, this is what ultimately Narendra Modi will have to choose. Whether he has to choose Yogi, because firstly his caste is not as what we can say controversial for the entire idea of liberal media or secular media, but at the same time caste of Yogi may not matter, but at the same time caste of Fadnavis can actually become a disability for BJP and his leadership and his prospect. But at the same time I am also a bit confident that what happens is, even if we see and take a look at Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he was actually a Brahmin leader, like born Brahmin, but at the same time, once he started ascending the entire political hierarchy, what happened is, as because of his speeches, because of his what can be called only as charismatic approach, what he could do was he could actually dissolve the entire thing where he is seen as nothing but his caste. So that is what might actually happen with Fadnavis going ahead. That is one of my prediction, that over the period of time, as even our society evolve, as more of our youngsters join the entire public debate discourse, and at the same time they go out and vote in huge numbers, what would matter to them is track record of governance, and not what caste that person belongs to. That is one thing which we all of us must keep in mind. At the same time, just as caste, also the background, because if we look at Devendra Fadnavis, his father was also in a public life. He was someone, at least someone in BJP, not a very prominent leader, but at least he had some political stake. Whereas when it comes to Yogi, he comes not from a very privileged background. So that is one thing which must be remembered. And I'm pretty sure that this is how the entire project of Hindu nationalism will think, that no matter what, even there is some people would tend to lean towards Yogi, some people might actually favor Fadnavis, but eventually what the entire, even the book Jugalbandi stresses upon, is the entire idea of Hindu Fevicol. So it basically states that all the Swayam Sevaks of RSS and entire Sangha Parivar is again and again told the same thing, that whenever Hindus were divided, whenever they did not fight as one unit, they were defeated. Not only that, their entire civilization had to face its effect because of that particular lack of unity. So whatever may be the ultimate choice of the next Prime Minister, be it Yogi or Fadnavis, at the same time both of them are definitely part and parcel, or what we can say as product of Sangha Parivar. They will ensure that whatever organizational or ministerial responsibility is given to them, they will ensure that it is followed to its conclusive state. That is one. And coming to the last point, I personally think that whenever this choice is made, even if Yogi is put forward as the face of the party, because he actually might represent the entire color of coming Hindutva, which continues to become more and more assertive, what would happen eventually is that Fadnavis would actually be given important ministries such as finance minister and industry, and he would be actually in charge of party matters, affairs, etc. Because what happens is, definitely Yogi can become the person who would be the face of the entire organization, but at the same time the hard work, the micromanagement and the policy making that has to be done, in my opinion BJP would that entire thing to Fadnavis. I just hope that in this entire thing both these young leaders do not end up fighting with each other, and that is what the hope is, that they will ensure that the party remains united, and they also ensure that the party which has given so much to them, they repay to that particular party in kind. So thanks a lot for today's session. You have been a really patient audience. I really enjoyed this particular session. We will be coming up again with part 2 of this, when we will be joined by Apurva Sahasrabudhe, and we will discuss what are the intricacies of this, what are the things which might affect this entire equation of Jugalbandi. Let us see what will happen tomorrow. I am equally eager for this, and thanks a lot to all of you for joining today. Good night.